Hey, hey, hey. Time for another out-of-this-world story from rSpace. What happens when your girlfriend cheats on you with not just her therapist, but a therapist that happens to be your own friend? Today on rSpace, Captain Clueless gets a clue, but he's left with more than he bargained for. Girlfriend cheated on me with therapist. Double dated and faked her mental issues to gain sympathy. I, 27 male, have been in a relationship with my girlfriend for 2 years. I'll call her Emma to protect her privacy. I met her at my friend's birthday and instantly got attracted to her. She was incredibly beautiful, but it was her boldness and smartness that got me attracted to her. She had a very interesting personality, and it still amazes me how she was the one who made the move and proposed to me. Our relationship was just like everyone else's, with the same bittersweet moments, and we had fun together. Apart from her fun nature, what intrigued me about her was that she was a strong woman. I mean, she grew up in a very harsh and abusive household. Her parents were almost non-existent. Her father was an addict and even used to hit her and her siblings when drunk. Her mother was too busy and tired with her work to check on her children. Since Emma was the oldest one, she became the motherly figure for her younger siblings. She grew up before her age. When she was in her early teens, she ran away with her younger siblings to a church shelter house where she completed her school in a community school. She later joined an NGO as a social worker for children's welfare and was still working there when I met her. I was awestruck by her life. The time we had together was good until she started shutting herself off from me. I mean, it wasn't sudden. She'd always been flaky, but after a while, she became unpredictable. She didn't respond to my texts for 2 straight days, and then I had to show up at her place to see what was wrong. She gave some lame excuse and got away with it. When this happened a few times, I confronted her. She has to tell me what's wrong, or else our relationship is not moving anywhere. That's when she told me her whole story about her severe anxiety and depression issues. She said she has been suffering from acute depression ever since she was a teen, and with time it was getting severe. I felt so bad for her and urged her to shift to my place. I never sensed that she was going through such a trauma. I thought she was putting up a brave face. I still remember how she got extreme panic attacks in the middle of the night after moving to my place. I had spent nights calming her down and helping her come out of it. I did everything I could to keep her happy and calm. Her panic attacks stopped, but she still suffered from depression. I asked her to see a therapist. She was reluctant. She said she had seen one a few years back, but it didn't work, and it cost her a lot. I looked up a trusted therapist and stumbled upon my roommate's profile. He was a certified therapist. I called him up, asking for help. I explained Emma's situation and offered to provide Emma with the latest slot. She was hesitant to go, saying that it would be expensive and a burden on me, but I asked her to focus on her healing at the moment and not think about money. Her therapy started, but I could not see any progress even after 3 months. I asked my therapist friend, let's call him Alex, about it, and he said mental healing takes time. He asked me to be patient with her, and I was. But with time, our dynamics started changing. She stopped discussing her problems with me. I mean, she reached out to Alex for everything. Everything means literally everything. Even if it was our relationship, instead of talking this out with me, she discussed that with Alex. I mean, I understand he was her therapist, but anything that involved me should be discussed with me so that we could solve it together. I was still putting all this up initially, but when they started meeting each other off therapy sessions and became friends, my insecurity crept in. I kind of felt like a third person in my own relationship. It was not always when they asked me to join them, but once I showed up with them for dinner, they both were so immersed in each other as if I was invisible. I was frustrated, but she looked happy and thought maybe I was overreacting to it all and she was just trying to heal herself. Once I woke up in the middle of the night to find Emma crying and talking to someone in the living room. I immediately understood it was Alex. I felt so bad, as if my presence was not worthy of her. I was beside her, yet she chose to call Alex in the middle of the night to share her thoughts. When she came back to the bed, she saw that I was awake. I couldn't hold it back and asked her what was wrong, and she told me it was just an anxiety attack. I asked her why she didn't inform me. She told me that she didn't want to be a burden on me, and talking to Alex helped her better than talking to me. He gave her professional help. I couldn't sleep after hearing that. I could hold back my insecurity because she looked so relaxed and happier with him, but she stayed silent around me. The next day, I told her I felt like non-existent in her life because she didn't share anything with me. I also confronted her that meeting Alex after therapy was not ethical. I tried to be subtle in my approach so as not to trigger her. I said Alex was my friend and was kind to lend his time at odd hours, but we shouldn't exploit it. She got defensive at this and asked me whether I wanted her to heal or not. She called me a control freak and said I doubted her unnecessarily. After a few minutes, she started hyperventilating and I got scared. I tried to pacify her and shrugged me off, saying not to touch her else she would kill herself. I seriously got very scared. I left the room and slept in the living room. In the morning, she said she wanted a break and focus on healing and went back to her place. I slept numerous nights with constant fear in my heart that if I ever said anything like that to her again, she would do something horrible, so I decided to keep my thoughts to myself and not overthink the whole situation. I gave her the time she needed to heal. It was more than a month since she had moved out, and I went to Alex to ask him about her progress. When I reached there, I saw him driving off from his clinic with Emma. I felt bitterness in my mouth as they drove off. It felt very suspicious. I called Emma, but she didn't respond to my call. Instead, I got a text from her saying that she couldn't call right now because she was in the church. She lied to me about her meeting with him. I decided to stop being delusional and finally confront her about this. I visited her place. I asked her up front, where was she on the last day, and she said the same thing again. I told her I saw her driving off with Alex. She twisted it, saying Alex is going in the same direction. He offered to drop her at the church. Even before I could say anything, she started threatening me emotionally. Her behavior made me anxious and felt like a jerk in tolerating her. Her anxiety or depression doesn't give you the right to let the other person go through the same trauma. She wasn't trying to protect her peace at this point. She was just avoiding confrontation. And whenever I tried asking her anything, she would just play her victim card and shut me up. I didn't know what to do, so I let her have a break. She almost ghosted me. I again went to meet Alex. I asked him about Emma's progress, and he told me she was doing better than before. I sensed he was cold towards me, as if he wasn't interested in meeting me. His phone started buzzing with M flashing on the screen. He excused himself and went inside. I called Emma, and her phone was busy too. I knew she was on the call with Alex. I was done with the relationship and went for a head-on confrontation with Emma. I told her that their closeness was bothering me a lot. She listened to me quietly at first and then started bashing me, saying that I was jealous that I failed as a boyfriend and didn't provide her with comfort, and now that Alex was helping her, I had problems with it. She stood up and started crying like a maniac and told me that if I started to blame her again, she would cut off her wrist and kill herself. I got really scared and tried to calm her down, but she just didn't want to listen to me and asked me to leave. Before going back, I told her that she was just trying to hide behind her problems, and that was not a good thing to do. After leaving her apartment, I literally cried like anything. My anxiety was bottling up inside, and I needed to explode. I called my close friend James and told him the whole thing that happened, and I asked him for his advice. He said that she was literally hiding behind her problems, and I should just let her do her thing for a while. Actually, James referred me to this space to vent out and connect with like-minded people. Looking forward to connecting if anyone has any suggestions. My condition is quite sensitive, and I want to be careful in handling Emma. 2 things. I think I read about it being unethical in her meeting her therapist after therapy. I'm not even sure that's allowed. You're not supposed to be friends with your therapist. Secondly, it's hard to maintain a relationship when you feel like you're walking on eggshells and constantly living in fear of saying the wrong thing. And then to go and say she'd hurt herself? I'm sorry, OP. That's a terrible situation to be in and to navigate through. Sounds like she's playing mind games with you in order to keep you in the dark about what's going on with Alex. She needs to deal with whatever it is she's dealing with before her relationship can go any further. This is rough. Update 1. Hello everyone. It's been a while since my last update. As I was going through a rough time with Emma and had anxiety throughout the whole break thing, I listened to James and left Emma on her own for a while before she tried to reach me on her own. After a while, she texted me and asked me if she could come over. I agreed. She came with flowers and hugged me. She looked extremely happy and better. We talked and she told me about everything that happened on these days and apologized to me for her behavior. I asked her if she was still seeing Alex, and she said that her sessions got shorter, and now it's 1 day a week, and that she was on medications. I was happy to hear that she was in her healing era. It felt great after a long time. She was soundly asleep and her phone was continuously buzzing around 2 in the night. It raised my curiosity and I checked her phone and tried to unlock it, but she had changed her password. I left it as it was and went to sleep. The next morning I dropped her off at her NGO, and I left for her office. During the day I asked her if she wanted me to pick her up from work. She said she was super busy with work and she would come home a little late, or she may stay at her place. I went back to my place and after a while I tried calling her, but she didn't respond and didn't even respond to any of my texts. I waited till midnight and still received no response, so I slept. My messages were still unread in the morning. It scared me to think if she was fine. On the way to my office, I went to her place to see if everything was alright, but the apartment was locked. I called her and she didn't respond. So I called her friend, Sophie, to see if she was with her, but she told me she wasn't, and she left the office quite early yesterday. I freaked out. I didn't know what to do or whom to ask, so I headed to work. I was tired of her flakiness, showering love one moment and then ignoring me in another. I was so drained and I just wanted to talk to her and ask her what she really wanted from me and from this relationship, but her past reactions had left me traumatized. Neither I was able to leave the relationship, nor I was able to fix it. After several hours, she finally called me and through her voice, she looked pretty fine. I asked her, where was she? She told me that she was busy with her new NGO's project for child education, and she stayed with her friend Sophie the whole night, and that's why she couldn't call me back. I stayed silent, and my heart was pounding pretty badly at her lies. I knew there was something going on, and instead of acting like a fool, it was my time to act. I told her I wanted to meet her, so either she could come over or I'll come. She told me that she was really tired and asked me to come over. After finishing off the work, I went to her place. She looked really exhausted and hugged me tightly. While hugging her, I saw a red mark on her neck, which looked like a hickey, and I asked where she got that. She told me that she burned herself from the straightener last night. She thought I would believe her, but I didn't because it was nothing like a burn or something else. The entire time we had dinner, she was continuously texting someone. I asked her to keep her phone down, at least when we were eating. She told me that it was just a friend and put her phone away. She was on medication and got into a deep sleep. I took her phone and used her fingerprint to unlock it. My hands were shivering while opening her chats. I saw an archived chat, and there were many groups and texts from the website. I almost came to the home screen, but then something caught my eye, and it was no one other than Alex. I opened the text and couldn't believe my eyes. I scrolled back to the first text and started reading it with teary eyes. At first, it was just a patient and therapist chat, but then it turned into a flirt and an emotional connection. She shared every emotional thing with him, and soon they were confessing their love for each other. As per the initial conversation, it was only an emotional connection, and they didn't have a physical relationship. I was shocked to see that eventually, she started faking her problems to gain his sympathy. I couldn't believe she was such an imposter and that she would do something like that. She told him that she needed him very badly and that I was physically and mentally abusing her. Their emotional conversations turned into sexting, and then they discussed having sex. I sat there shivering and felt chills down my body. She also told him that she had broken up with me. Alex also mentioned to her about my visit and told her that he hadn't informed me about anything. Someone with such anxiety and depression was capable of such actions, which was new to me. I was trying to help her, and in return, she ruined me. I checked the gallery and saw their pictures of the dates they went on together. As I was about to get up, her medicine box fell off the table, and all of it got scattered. I was picking them up when I found something suspicious. It was this one pill that had mifepristone. The logo on the medicine indicated something related to periods. I checked it on Google and found it was an abortion pill. I couldn't take anything further, and silently left her without saying crap. She called me in the morning, but I didn't respond. Neither am planning to respond to her any longer. I'm just done being the good guy. I think it'd be best to just drop her like a hot potato. She traumatized you into behaving and acting a certain way around her. That's incredibly abusive. I'm so sorry, OP. She doesn't deserve any more of you. Sure, she may have had an anxiety and depression, but she definitely used it against you. Update 2. Finally, Emma left my life, but she left things with me for a lifetime, and that was her anxiety, depression, and panic attacks. I realized that in the process of helping her heal, I got anxious. Anyway, after finding out the truth, I left her immediately and didn't talk to her at all. I ignored her completely because I didn't have the courage to confront her. I went back to my parents' house and took leave for a few days. I shared everything with my mother, and my physical and mental health both collapsed miserably. My mom advised me to seek closure from her and let everything out because bottling it up would do more damage. I was confused, but then I decided to meet Alex first. I asked him what was going on between them. He was confused, and then I showed him my prescription that I was diagnosed with depression, and I really do need him to tell me everything. I told him I knew all the truth, so there was no point in hiding it anymore. He told me how it started, and he believed that I really abused her because of my anger issues that he had seen back in college. I explained to him that I never touched her without her permission, and abusing her was off the charts. My anger issues never surfaced when I handled her, and I never expected that he would betray me like that. I told him that she was double dating both of us. He didn't believe that Emma was still seeing me after telling him that she had broken up with me. I showed him all the romantic texts. He stayed silent in shock and told me that he fell in love with her and didn't realize it when he started believing her blindly. I told him that I referred my girlfriend to him because I trusted him with her condition, but I never thought that you both would screw me and make me sick. I asked him not to mention anything about this to her as I still haven't confronted her. He told me that he wouldn't see her ever again after I showed him the evidence of her double dating. He also told me that she didn't need serious help because whatever she was doing was totally sickening, and you couldn't comprehend whether she was seriously ill or doing it for attention. Her manic episodes were so scary that no one could ever doubt that she was faking it, but I think Alex was right. I think she told me the whole story for attention and did the same with him too. She was even reluctant to seek therapy, and when I urged her to see one, she trapped him too. After I was done talking to Alex, I headed to Emma's place. As soon as she saw me, she hugged me and cried profusely. She started kissing me all over my face, asking me why I was ignoring her. She was crying and panicking as if she was about to faint. I realized this is how she always emotionally manipulated me. I shrugged her off and asked her to stop acting and confront the truth. She gave me a confused look and asked me what I was talking about. I told her that I knew all the truth so she could cut off her acting skills for a while. She looked at me in disbelief and then started hyperventilating. I sat there while she acted like she was out of breath. She started murmuring that she was having a panic attack. This time, I didn't rush to comfort her. I just sat there and gave her a cold stare. She limped her way to the kitchen, trying to fetch water. She was breathing so heavily that I could hear her breath all through the living room. If I had not known her truth, I would have fallen for her acting skill yet again. She brought the glass of water and gulped it all in a shot. Just see her acting. Anyone who is having a panic attack would drink water as soon as they find it and not display an act in front of others. She sat on the couch, trying to pacify herself and giving me a disgusting look. I asked her whether she was done acting and if there was anything left. She told me to mind my language, then started acting like a maniac and threatening me with her life. I stood up and shouted at her to sit properly and stop all this BS. I asked her to confess that she did cheat on my back with Alex and that she was double dating. She sat there in shock and nodded and told me that she got emotionally attached to him. I told her that I didn't care about any BS that she was going to feed me other than the fact that she faked all her anxiety and depression for baseless attention and made a fool out of me. I told her that now Alex also knew everything about her and she was free to go and find another prey to feed her emotions. While I was leaving, she tried to stop me, but I threatened her to never show up in my life ever again. I left the place and never heard from her again, and that was the scariest thing that ever happened to me. It was so horrible the way she emotionally controlled me. I got so deeply connected with her emotionally that I believed all the BS she fed to me. As for Alex, he sometimes called to check on me. I'm doing a lot better than before, but I have got severe anxiety disorder. I guess it will take time. I will be fine sooner or later. It was never your responsibility to help her or heal her. That was all on her. And now look what her and her lies have done to you. She's totally shattered you. I'm not sure it was entirely worth going to see Alex either. After all he did to you, he was a part of it all. You should totally cut yourself off from Alex too. He doesn't deserve any part of you either. Some things aren't worth the closure. Both of them are scum. What do you think? Thank you for joining us today on rSpace. Be sure to like and subscribe and hit that notification bell so you don't miss out on our next video. See you soon.